The video games of the 2000s and early 2010s are the ones I grew up playing, and in my opinion, this era represents one of the best periods in gaming history. This time saw the release of some of the most influential handhelds and consoles, like the Nintendo DS, 3DS, and Wii. These devices not only shaped modern gaming, but also introduced a whole new generation to the world of video games. It was a time when gaming felt fresh, with developers pushing the boundaries of what these systems could do. Many fans still hold these consoles in high regard, and for good reason. The DS brought touchscreen gaming into the mainstream, while the Wii changed how we interact with games through motion controls. Personally, I started with the DS, which I spent countless hours on as a kid. I can still remember the feeling of unwrapping it for the first time and diving into games that quickly became favorites. I also had a Nintendo Wii and eventually got a Nintendo 2DS, each adding a new layer to my gaming experience. In this video, I'll be sharing the games that were significant to me. This won't be a comprehensive list of every great game for these devices, but rather the ones I had and remember fondly. So if you don't see your favorite game, it might just be I didn't have it growing up. With that being said, let's dive right into these games. One of my favorite games for the Wii, Punch-Out, brought the classic boxing series back with a fresh look and feel. Released in 2009, this game was unique, fun, and offered a surprising challenge to my younger self. You play as a young boxer named Little Mac, and with your coach Doc Lewis, train to fight through multiple circuits of 4 fighters, slowly becoming more professional and challenging. The gameplay is unique and unlike anything I had played as a kid. But outside of gameplay, the cutscenes you get in between circuits of Mac and Doc training for the next round of fights hyped me up and showed the level of difficulty increasing between each circuit. Also, the artwork before fights showing a little background on each opponent makes them feel alive and all having their own unique identity. I remember specifically always having trouble against the world champion, Mr. Sandman, but when I eventually did get that belt, it felt awesome. Overall, the gameplay and atmosphere is great, and this is one of my favorite games from my childhood. Today, I'm a big fan of UFC and boxing, and I think this may have sparked my initial interest and introduction to fighting in Punch-Out. Pokemon Black and White launched in 2011 on the DS, and Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 followed in 2012. These games introduced the Unova region, based on the New York metro area, and featured an entirely new set of Pokemon. Exclusive to Pokemon Black and White, Game Freak decided to do a soft reset on the franchise, which made sense story-wise as this was the first region based on a location outside of Japan. This meant that any Pokemon outside of the Unova Pokédex was unobtainable until after completion of the main story. This was initially received poorly by dedicated fans, but looking back today, a lot of people see Unova as the end of the golden age of Pokemon. These games were my first Pokemon games as a kid, and I still hold them in the highest of regards. My first ever Pokemon Tepig and my favorite Pokemon of all time, Sandile, come from this generation. Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 are my favorite games, and somewhat universally known as the best in the franchise by fans. Both Generation 5 games were also known for their more mature storylines and complex characters, which was a bit different from previous entries in the series. Characters like Ann and Ghetsis introduced philosophies like the inhumane nature of capturing Pokemon and forcing them to battle for us, which was somewhat unexpected, especially in a game marketed for children. Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 also added even more content, making it feel like a true sequel with new areas and features to explore. These games are a highlight of the early 2010s and likely the best Pokemon games of the entire franchise to this day. Released in 2009, New Super Mario Bros. Wii was the first 2D Mario platformer on a home console in years, and it brought classic Mario gameplay into the modern era, with a twist. Of course, it followed the usual Mario formula with Bowser kidnapping Princess Peach and Mario needing to save her, but with a lot of new elements and supporting characters. The Wii version introduced 4-player co-op, so you and your friends could play as Mario, Luigi, and 2 Toads simultaneously. This was my first Mario game ever as a kid, and I remember being obsessed with the scenery and sense of completion after each level and world. Every world had its own theme, notably Desert World, Frozen World, Water World, Jungle World, and Bowser's World. I also remember reaching World 9 after the main story and having the star levels, which was an added challenge and motivation to go back and get star coins you may have missed. Lots of new power-ups were also introduced like Ice, Propeller, and Penguin Mario. Overall, this is a highly memorable addition to the Mario mainline games, and a game that is just a great time and memory. Launched in 2011, Kirby's Return to Dreamland brought classic Kirby platforming action to the Wii. I'm going to say this a lot this video, but this once again is a staple game of my childhood. This Kirby game follows Kirby, King Dedede, Meta Knight, and Waddle Dee as they help an alien named Magolor recover pieces of the lore Star Cutter so he can return home. This game felt like almost a little more of a complex Mario adventure, with a little more expansion from the base story. Kirby was always a little foreign to me as a kid, but after playing this game, I became hooked. And while I can't say that I've ever played another Kirby game, this one was one of my favorites as a kid. Using different power-ups and super power-ups always felt awesome, and a wide array of villains made the story interesting and challenging. The game always felt bright and had an interesting 2.5D art style which kept things fresh and very updated. especially since this game was originally supposed to be released for the GameCube. Released in 2005, Mario Kart DS is a classic game for any DS owner and one of my favorites growing up. This was my first taste of the Mario Kart series, and it quickly became a game I sunk countless hours into. Mario Kart DS brought Mario Kart to a handheld console and saw a core collection of Mario characters. I remember slowly building up the courage to move up in difficulty as I got better in the game, starting at 50cc and moving my way to 100cc and eventually 150cc. Many of the original tracks made a return as retro tracks, but this game also saw the addition of multiple new circuits with their own theming and new courses. Courses I remember specifically are Luigi's Mansion, Desert Hills, and of course Rainbow Road and its classic soundtrack. My go-to character was always Yoshi, and I refused to play anyone else. This quickly solidified Yoshi as my favorite Mario character and the reason I still love him today. This game is critically acclaimed, and I'm sure many others feel the same about this game. Released in 2013, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon for the Nintendo 3DS was another one of those games that my mom just happened to get me for a holiday, but it's a game I unexpectedly really got attached to. I wasn't familiar with the Luigi's Mansion games at all as a kid, until actually I received the game and played it a lot. In this game, Luigi is the protagonist and must use the vacuum cleaner named the Poltergust 5000 to capture ghosts and receive the scattered shards of the Dark Moon, a magical item that is capable of pacifying all the ghosts in Evershade Valley. This, as well as saving Mario from King Boo, are the two main goals of the main story. I've actually never played another Luigi's Mansion game, but after the recent release of Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon to the Nintendo Switch, I'd really like to play through this game again over 10 years after release and experience this franchise once again. This was one of those games I had completely forgotten how much fondness I had for, and I really enjoyed reminiscing about Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon for the Nintendo 3DS. Mario Galaxy Wii is a unique game for me, as I had to be alone on my Wii when I played it due to the main story being single player, although this may have made me come to appreciate it as much as it should be. Released initially in 2007 for the Nintendo Wii, I didn't get my hands on it until much later, but to say I enjoyed it would be an understatement. This game is absolutely beautiful, and a completely different Mario game than anyone was expecting. It takes place completely in outer space, as Mario embarks on a quest to save Princess Peach from Bowser and save the universe. The levels consist of galaxies filled with a bunch of different planets, and the level of gravity changes constantly, which is the major change in movement and the central focus of this game. The opening scene of the Star Festival and Mario walking down the path of the Mushroom Kingdom when Bowser appears in the airship is so out of body, an extremely emotionally investing opening scene that sucked players right into the action and got people invested in the story. Characters like Rosalina and Luma make this story unique and have a fresh face for the Mario franchise. Also, this game's soundtrack is completely next level, and even saying that does not do it justice. Mohito Yokota, who was challenged with the music direction of this extremely unique Mario title, used an excellent assortment of orchestral songs to complement the feeling of being in space. I did a lot of research and ended up reading a lot about the process of making this music, and I highly recommend that you check it out yourself. There's a reason why this game is so critically acclaimed and is essential to my childhood. Pokemon SoulSilver and HeartGold were released in 2009, and my copy of SoulSilver, which I still have, is actually from an older cousin of mine, and when I received it as a somewhat hand-me-down, I played it a ton. This and Pokemon Black were my two stable Pokemon games as a kid, and I quickly fell in love with the Johto region. Although this is a remake, I do believe anyone will agree that this is the prime way to play the Johto region, and I'm really happy I got to experience a Pokemon classic as a kid. Whether it be the ambiance or charm, this game is heavily regarded as one of the best in the series. Having Pokemon follow you outside of battle is probably my favorite core aspect of Pokemon SoulSilver and HeartGold, and Pokemon has yet to master this detail even in modern games. One fond memory of this game that I have is a period when I was younger when I was really into shiny hunting, and I had decided to soft reset in order to get a shiny starter on my cartridge. I didn't realize how big of a feat this was, but after just 7 soft resets I was able to get a shiny Totodile to appear, and I still have it to this day. This was my first ever shiny, and I used it to steamroll the entire game, as I decided I just wanted to use my shiny for Alligator in my run, and no one Pokemon was worthy. Anyway, this game has proven itself as a timeless piece of the Pokemon franchise, and I know a lot of you definitely hold this game dearly as well. With that, those were the games that I remember most vividly and shaped my childhood. What games did you like most as a kid, and what games would you have added to this list? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, and while you're down there, please consider subscribing, and it helps me out a ton. We recently surpassed 100 subscribers at the time of writing this, and I wanted to say how much I appreciate your support. I continue to strive to make every video higher quality, and I'm in a studio right now recording this as a part of making better quality content. As always, thank you for your support, and I'll see you all soon.